Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Joe and I'm the dad.
And I'm Raya and I'm the daughter.
Hey, I saw on television today that they invented a new kind of a parachute.
A new kind of parachute?
Yeah, it's one of these that you don't pull the cord until you're 10 feet from the ground.
Well, 10 feet from the ground?
Well, yeah.
What happens if the parachute doesn't come out?
Well, you can jump 10 feet, can't you?
I feel like sometimes in the LGBTQ community, the logic is a little bit like that parachute. That we think, oh, well, we all are discriminated against. Oh, well, you're trans. Well, you can jump 10 feet, can't you? Why are so many gay and lesbian allies still transphobic?
Yeah, right. We did a podcast just recently talking about why we need to be working together, not against one group over the other group. Together we are LGBTQ plus. And when we are united together, we are a singular voice and with a much greater volume. And it does make a big difference. But I just noticed that there are groups right now that are singling out trans people in a variety of ways. They're trying to make laws that are different for them than they are for the rest of the LGBTQ plus community.
So, for instance, Iowa just passed some legislation to rescind laws that were protecting trans people.
Yes.
So that if you're trans and you're working in a job and you feel like that should be protected, but in Iowa now they're basically saying, nope, if you are trans and the employer says you're a little weird being here, they can fire you just because they think you're a little weird for being transgender. The bathroom bills are coming out. There's laws that are banning gender-affirming care for certain insurances. There's the Don't Say Trans laws, which aim to erase mentions of LGBTQ plus people and issues in classrooms. There's all of the erasure that have happened across the government, taking out all references to trans people at all, really trying to erase us. Why is the hatred so much stronger for transgender people?
Well, I think it goes back to looking at society as a whole. People who feel as though they're morally right, there's something here that's different. They have to have a target. They need that target so they've got something to say, yes, we need to change this. This is terrible. We've got to go after these people. You go back to America when it first began, and it didn't take long for people to say, Black Americans are not even human. They worked their way down to that point, and it was a long time before they even said they were. And at that point, they were only a percentage of human. They never really became equal until Abraham Lincoln said that they were equal.
And even that then didn't really take effect until the civil rights movement, and in some ways, even still not now.
That's absolutely right. And it's been other things too. Immigrants, when they first started coming to America, we were all immigrants. But there was a group that was more immigrant than others. Oh, yes, I was here, or I was born here, and you weren't, and you can't speak our language, or you speak it with a funny accent, or you do things and you eat different things than I do. You're just not really welcome to be a part of our community. And that was a big thing for a long time as well. And I noticed it's come back again, but it's a different group this time. But still, immigrants, again, are something that some people can say, oh, you're not welcome here. Well, where would that leave you and me?
Right.
Our ancestors were immigrants here.
Exactly. I remember having a conversation with a close friend of mine saying, America is not a colonial power. We don't have colonies all over the world. And my friend said, Raya, America is the colony. And I said, well, what do you mean? We were not here first.
Right.
Indigenous people were here.
Yes.
So people are so complaining these days about immigrants. We're the immigrants.
Oh,
And we think, oh, well, oh, yeah, I get what you mean. No, we are the immigrants.
that's right. Yes. And there's been other targets too. At one point in history, it was Catholics. Catholics were definitely targeted, and they were the people that were singled out to be different, to be wrong. Gay men were definitely targeted during the HIV crisis. That was another big thing. So now trans people are the current focus because they remain misunderstood by the majority of people. And that is unfortunate.
It's like there's the classic axiom in comedy that you should always punch up and not down. It's that ethical guideline that your jokes should always target the people and the institutions that have power, not the people that are marginalized. And yet, we know that can end up being a way to score political points. Is you look at the people that are already not doing well and you say, well, they belong that way for some reason. And you get people that are already feeling anxiety about their position in the country, and you turn them towards other people that are doing worse, and you say they're really your problem. It's punching down rather than punching up. And that you can always use that to score points, and it's never right. It's never okay.
And the LGBT community has been fighting this for a long, long time. And I feel right now that gays and lesbians generally have done a better job at educating people. It's become much more acceptable. But yet, trans people are still a little bit behind that. Most Americans think that they never even met a trans person. It's probably not true, but they think that.
We have more visibility now, which is good.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people know about some of the trans people in the media. For example, Laverne Cox, Elliot Page, Sarah McBride, that we did an episode all about, the representative. How about Kim Petras, that sang the duet with Sam Smith, Unholy, which is a very big hit last year? There's a lot more representation from trans people right now.
Visibility is up, but understanding hasn't caught up to the visibility. More trans people are coming out. And the media and the internet amplify the visibility, but they don't offer the education. That's where we're falling down. So people don't understand, and because they don't understand, they fear, or they say, clearly this is wrong, because nobody's telling them it's right.
I'm always amazed when somebody at work does not realize that they're speaking with a transgender person, and then they make some transphobic comment to me. I had a guy the other day that said on every application, it has to put your sex, male or female. And there is no non-binary. There's nothing on there. It's just male or female is what you choose on there. And the guy said, male. No, I said sex male. And he said, I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was enrolling his wife too. And I said sex female. And she said, she thought she would be funny. And she said, I hope so. And he said, I know so. But they had no idea that here they were talking to a transgender agent. I've had people express some very transphobic views when that question comes up.
Oh, sure.
Not real often, but every now and then. They don't know who they're talking to, and they assume that I'm right there with them. Well, maybe 15 years ago, I probably would have been.
Well, you see the deal here? Society is comfortable with gay and lesbian identities now, right? But they don't challenge gender structure. Trans identity asks deeper questions about gender and bodies and identities. So for some people, this feels really uncomfortable. It feels like, no, this isn't this isn't right. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. And I tell you who's the worst, in my opinion. Politicians. They've discovered that the issue of transphobia is useful for them. Trans issues poll well with fear-based messaging, right?
It does.
Yeah, right. And unlike gay marriage, which many Americans now support, the trans issue is newer and easier to go after.
Well, I cannot even begin to tell you how many people have come up and asked me about, well, but what about trans women in sports?
Right.
And I want to ask every one of them, when was the last time that you ever watched women's sports? You don't care about women's sports. You're just using it as a way to say, but those gross people out there, or to lump me in with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a whataboutism.
And what happens is the people who are following specific politicians that use this as an issue, because they support that politician, the politician says, this is what we believe. And they say, yes, 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 yes. Am I right?
Yeah, that's
Sure.
exactly it. I think also, too, there's a big yuck factor that goes on because you can kind of figure, okay, if you're gay or you're lesbian, you're out there, you're living your own life. But if you're transgender, there are still a lot of people that feel like we're trying to fool you. And I know I had a number of people when I first transitioned, men in particular, that felt like just by virtue of my transition, I was asking them to be attracted to me.
Oh.
And I thought, this is not even remotely what I want. I just want to be able to live my life in a way that feels comfortable. I'm not asking you or wanting you or hoping that you will be attracted to me at all, which I discovered is actually, that's the female experience in general, that girls grow up always being wanted. You know, guys don't oftentimes realize this because you think, well, I'm not that way. And a lot of the people that I know around me are not that way. But I will tell you, it's very rare to find a girl that has not had some guy inappropriately hit on her or make inappropriate comments or say things. So while we might say not all men, we can say all women have experienced this at some point.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's something that I discovered that perspective. I didn't realize how pervasive it would be, but realizing that just by virtue of being there, that I was objectified by some people. Now, if that person is thinking that they have a right to objectify all women, and then here I come in, and they think, oh, well, I can objectify you as well. But then they discover, oh, wait, but you were born as a man? And then they feel like they were betrayed because they crossed a line that they shouldn't have been crossing to begin with. And I feel like that makes that yuck thing that a lot of people have.
Let's take a look at the mechanics of trans misinformation, because there's a lot of it out there. So there are really three ways that people are using misinformation. One is in the area of protecting children. Another is deliberate disinformation networks, the social media kind of things. And then there's the simplicity of misinformation versus the complexity of truth. And we'll talk about that right after this.
I'm Chuck Reynolds, and I started listening to Transcendent because Joe is my friend. I keep listening because I have friends, colleagues, and family members who are part of the LGBTQ community, and I want to better understand their struggles and perspectives. I have become a supporter because I believe Joe and Raya are truly helping to preserve relationships and save lives. Join me in supporting Transcendent. Just go to transcendent.com, click on support, and select the amount you'd like to give each month. It can be as little as $3, and you can cancel at any time.
So if we go back, let's take a look at the protecting of the children. When we look back historically, for a long time, that was all used to attack gay people in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Oh, well, we can't have gay people being scout leaders and things like that. We're protecting the kids. Can't be teachers. And it went on and on about those kinds of things. Well, that's kind of gone away now. But what have they done? Instead of really pushing it away, they turned it toward the trans people. And that was one of those things that clearly was against trans people. And what else did they do? They talked about health care. Oh, yeah, it's fine now for gay people and lesbians and those out there with other kinds of plus situations, but not for trans people. Oh, they can't do that kind of health care that they're supposed to have. No, we can't do that. And then there's the bathroom issue. One of the things, I just returned from a trip outside of the country, and I came back and I had to transfer in one of the major airports, and I decided, oh, I got to find a bathroom somewhere. And I walked over, and it said unisex bathroom. I thought, oh, that was good. So you get your choice.
It reminds me of when I was a kid growing up, you would always talk about cooties. There were boy cooties or girl cooties, right?
Yeah,
You're going to get cooties.
Yeah.
Well, the idea is kind of that trans people have cooties, and it's related. It's the same as you thought that there were the girl cooties or the boy cooties when you were growing up. You almost think that you're going to get infected by the trans person because there's a crossing of categories. You know, something doesn't seem right, and they might infect you. They might infect the kids.
Right.
You know, the kids will get around, and then they'll say, oh, I want to be trans all of a sudden. They never thought about it before. They never questioned their gender at all, but they get around a trans person, and then immediately they think, oh, I'm supposed to be transgender. That's not how gender works.
Right, exactly. But it happens to be a situation right now that is just being used to focus on the people that they think are the ones that need to be straightened out.
It's literally just marketing fear. Because, we can get people to be scared of something that they don't know or don't understand. And then if we can, we should be afraid of these people. Well, why?
So how do they get this misinformation out? Another thing they do, they take this misinformation and they have these deliberate misinformation networks. Doesn't that sound great? So they do things like taking social media accounts and groups and pushing stories that they make up.
Or you take the worst. You know, there are, of course, some bad trans people out there, just as there are bad anybody.
Yes.
You take any group and you can find one person. So you go out there and you find the one person who's obviously transgender and obviously misbehaving in public, and then you blow it up and you say, see, look how all these trans people are. And you point the finger as if this is representative. Do we get to do that with any other group? Can we do that with straight, white, male Republicans? You know, and point and say, you know, here's somebody throwing a tantrum in a store. See, look at how they all are. Right. That's not how that is.
Of course not.
We're all individuals. We're all different. But yet, too often people think, oh, well, trans people, because we're considered weird, because we're out, we're crossing some border, then they think we can go out, we can find the worst, and then we'll publish that and we'll say, see how they all are.
Have you heard about this stuff that's on the internet right now? And they call these things outrage content?
Yes.
Outrage content?
Because outrage keeps you hooked longer than any other emotion.
Yeah, but you know why they do it? They do it for money. Because they come up with this stuff and they make it up. And they make it all up so that if you want to know most of the information, you got to pay. You got to pay to learn a little bit more about that. There was a guy that made all that money talking about the fact that some of the school shootings were not really true.
Oh.
And he got convicted, and he pretty much lost all the money he made and more.
And that's a little bit about what these people that are doing, they're rage baiting, and they go out and they think, what group of people can we take that are going to get people as mad as we can? I know. Let's take trans people and let's paint them in the worst light that we possibly can. And then let's get people really scared and especially really angry.
And there's one more thing that follows right along with this, and that is misinformation versus the truth. And a lie that scares you is going to spread faster than the truth that requires proof.
Right.
And, that stuff is terrible. Whoa, look at that. And then you tell other people, how do you spread it? Well, yeah, that's true. I saw it on the internet. Go check on this.
Sure. And then especially you take a very complicated issue that requires a lot of nuance and a very, there's points over here and there's points over here. And this is complicated. And instead you flatten it all out and you make it as simple as you can. You oversimplify in a way that you make trans people look terrible.
So let's take a look at what is the real impact of this kind of action. Harm to trans people. What kind of harm is there to trans people? It has been shown that there is increased violence against trans people, like there used to be against gays and lesbians long ago, but that's getting a lot better, but not with the trans group.
There's a lot more discrimination now.
Oh, there sure is.
Housing, jobs, education. It's already hard enough to be trans, but when you can't get a job, when you can't find housing, when you're discriminated against in school, it makes it that much harder.
Right. And then there's the health. The health impact is a biggie.
And then there's the increased rates of depression and anxiety, which comes right out of all of these things. It comes out of all of the transphobia that's there, that of course, if you're living with these kinds of things, you're feeling like the world is constantly against you.
Yeah.
And of course, families are being torn apart.
Oh, yeah.
Children are coming out as trans and they're being rejected by their parents, rejected by their siblings or by their loved ones.
And the parents who do accept them feel as though they're isolated or targeted as well. So that's tough for them too. And the family relationships are strained by all of this political stuff that's going on to target these people. And harm to the whole LGBTQ community follows right along with that. So when you've got this divided movement we talked about before, it weakens the whole group. So there are places right now where there are gays and lesbians out there that don't want to be associated with the trans people because the trans people are the targets.
We are a community. If you come at one of us, you come at all of us.
That's true, because anti-trans policies often become anti-LGBT policies next. And so we are one group.
Division weakens us, but solidarity and standing together is what protects us all together. So let's talk about what can we do. How can we fight this growing transphobia that is getting worse and worse all the time? One of the first things we can do is to humanize trans lives. It's one of the reasons why we do this podcast right now, is because I didn't really want to out myself as being transgender when we started this podcast, but I felt like it's important that somebody hear a voice from, I'm just a normal person. I'm just one of us.
Right.
And I want you to understand that. And that's why we try to feature trans people on this podcast as well, and other people from across the LGBTQ plus community, so that we can all understand that we're just people. You know, if you've met one trans person, you've met one trans person, because every one of us, that's only one feature of our lives. It might be the feature that is the most foreign to you, But we're just as different from one another as you are from anybody else in your life.
Absolutely. Just like I always say, all left-handed people are not the same. And I'll tell you, it's going to be hard to find a left-handed person who's as funny as I am.
We don't change minds with statistics or arguments or debates. Those things help to shore up once you're already an ally, but we change lives with stories. So the more that you can go to the people around you and say, hey, let me tell you a story of a trans person I know. Let me tell you about this podcast.
Yeah.
Or let me tell you about another trans person I know. Let me tell you about a trans person I heard on this podcast, or wherever you have it. Let me introduce you to my friend. Of course, many of us don't want to be outed. But the point is, the more that you stand up and you say, they're just people. They're not out there as predators, ready to pounce on your daughter. That's not what we're about. I will tell you, if I was trying to be a predator, I would not have had all $100,000 of complicated surgeries and given up my entire life, everything that I was going to be, my career in the ministry,
Right.
my ability to live with my kids, my marriage, because this is what I was going to be able to go infiltrate a women's locker room. That's not what trans people are about.
No.
That's not what we're doing. We are just people that, for me, I had one day where I got to a head and I said, I can't live this way anymore. And if I have to live this way, I would rather just not even be here.
You know, protecting trans people means supporting them, not denying them care or denying them the rights that other people have. It is being part of one family, and that matters a lot. And you know, most Americans actually don't want to police bathrooms or books. That's a small amount of people who do that kind of thing. And it isn't that it's going to create any problems one way or another anyway. That's really not what we're looking at. So let's talk about my end. I'm an ally. I'm an affirming ally. And how can we as allies, I'm speaking to you out there that are an ally, how can you take small, realistic steps to help support trans people and have trans people accept it as normal, which they are? How can we do that? Well, I'll tell you one thing we can do. We can share accurate information. That's really critical. There is a lot of things out there that are not true. And it's information that spreads because it's false and it sounds, oh, can you believe that? Oh, that's terrible.
I think having some conversations when it comes up, when it's appropriate. I'll give you 3 examples here. You can start a conversation saying, you know, trans people have always existed across every culture, every continent, and throughout all of history. And begin the conversation that way. Look, these people are not weird. Or you might say, I support trans youth because supporting trans youth reduces harm. Every major medical association agrees with me. I have a YouTuber that I really like that has a sign up on his YouTube videos that says support trans youth. And every time I see that, I think this person is someone that's safe. And he's not talking about trans issues, talking about an entirely different topic altogether. But every time I see that, I realize this is somebody that I know is safe. Or you can start a conversation saying, hey, you know what? You don't have to understand everything in order to treat somebody with dignity.
You can speak up in family situations or in church settings. I have personally done that. Not so much in family settings because our family is totally affirming. I don't think we started that way. In fact, I know I didn't. And I'm sure that others in our family didn't either. but I'm confident now everyone is totally affirming in our family. And I feel very good about that. The thing also is you could be in a church setting or some other organization you can be part of. And if you hear something that isn't true, speak up. It does make a difference. And I can tell you, it certainly has made a difference between me and some of the other people that have made some comments about me. And now I know many of those people often come to me with questions looking to find the right answers. And I feel really good about that.
Yeah.
I'm involved in a service organization. And that service organization, it's quite large. We've got 110 members in this group. And this service organization, people all know where I stand. And rather than shunning me or rather than saying something else, they come to me with questions about LGBTQ situations. And what do I think about this? And where is that? And is this normal? That kind of thing. And I'm really pleased about the fact that I've become a voice in that area.
I remember 20 or 25 years ago when one of my sister's friends started dating a same-sex partner. There was talk within the family of, well, what would Joe think? And you were specifically the person that they brought up as
That's right.
the person that would be judgmental.
Yeah.
And now here it is. Here we are all these years later, and you're out there holding the flag and saying, I'm an ally. And that's really what we want for everybody. That's what we're doing with this podcast. We're trying to make everybody into a better ally. I'm grateful, Dad, for you here doing that. And we're grateful for every one of you here coming back, listening to us week after week. We're here with a message of positivity that you can take out to the world. And if you have gotten something from this podcast or any of the other podcasts, share this with a friend.
And I want to tell you, trans people are not the cause of society's problems. They are just simply a group who the problems are projected to be problems, and they're not. They're not part of that at all. They're just a target that doesn't need to be a target. So you're right in everything you're saying, Raya. We want you to reaffirm compassion and understanding. We want to invite you to continue learning and supporting the whole LGBTQ plus community. Curiosity is the beginning of compassion. Just keep asking the right questions. You will certainly walk away learning more, understanding more, becoming more and more accepting and affirming. It's my goal to continue that as well. I want to be more affirming than I am. I want to learn more than I already know. I've learned so much already on this podcast now in its 4th year. I've still got a long way to go. I don't understand this completely, but I do understand everything we're talking about LGBTQ is we're talking about people who are normal, as certainly as much as I am normal being left-handed. And with that, we'll see you Monday.
I am not causing society's anxieties because I'm transgender. I'm causing society's anxieties because I'm passing on your jokes.